Alrighty. It's a busy night tonight as I am going to start the first of what would be free videos that I'm going to be uploading tonight and free video that I'm going to be recording. I am going to be starting with the review of the midweek games, and then I'm going to be doing the preview for the weekend games, which I believe there's going to be 12 games, a full slate of MLS action in MLS Matchweek number 17. And then I am going to do a little bit of a Throwback Thursday series where I'm going to be talking about the history of the Cali Classico at Stamford. And of course, I'm doing that video because it's in honor of the Cali Classico that is going to be at Stamford this weekend. And obviously, I am very excited to attend that game. Like, as a Quakes fan, that game is always the game that I look forward to the most whenever the schedule released, because it's facing against our biggest rival and it's 50,000 people in the stadium cheer on the team. The atmosphere is always the best at that game. But with that being said, let's actually first talk about the 6 games that happened. And these 6 games, some of these were pretty crazy, and that some of these games actually had a lot of action, and including one game there was a crazy and bizarre ending, and also a bit of a controversial ending too. But we start off with the first game between the Revs and Philly, which ends in an honors even 1-1 draw. And for New England, they should have won this one. There is no doubt that New England should have won this game because of the fact that in the first half, they got an early lead thanks to Brendan Bye from Carlos Hill to give them a 1-0 lead, but they dominated the first half. They had numerous chances of going to halftime up more than 1 or 2-0, but this is pretty much a classic example of what happened when you do not kill your team off, and that when you don't put away your chances against the bigger team, because once you decide not to do that, that's when it could come back to haunt you. And in this case, that's what happened in the 84th minute, where Shabilko scores to tie the game up, and it was a horrible mistake from Andrew Farrell. So as this ball was coming in from Fafa Pico, Farrell actually was literally right there ready to try to intercept and clear the ball away, but for some reason he wasn't able to clear it away. He misplayed it, and then it goes right into Shabilko, who easily just tapped that one in. It's a horrible mistake from Farrell and a horrible defending there from the New England Revolution, and that cost them all 3 points in this game, as they only are able to settle with a 1-1 draw. Now, in terms of the shots in this game, New England had 13 shots compared to 10 that Philly has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 7 shots off target compared to 4 that Philly has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and Philly actually had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that New England has. But New England definitely had more of the dangerous chances, and that if they would able to get that second goal, and that if they were able to put this game away, even with this bad mistake that Andrew Farrell made in the 84th minute, even that, if they would have got that second goal, this wouldn't have mattered, and that they would have got all 3 points. So, for the Revs, it's a bit frustrating, the fact that not only they drop points at home, but they kind of drop points, and the goals that they concede was very, very soft. And as for Philly, it was an ugly game for the Union, but the good news is they at least get a point out of this game on the road, which whenever you get a point on the road, it's always a good thing, and that they are still now at the top of the Eastern Conference. But moving on into the next match, and the team that is going to remain in third place is DC, who of course got a 1-0 win against Orlando City, and the only goal in this game might be in contention, if not be the goal of the year, because Wayne Rooney, he decided to once again score an absolute stunner from 65 yards out. And if you guys haven't watched this goal yet, I encourage you to watch this one, because we've seen a couple of times that Rooney has done a spectacular goal from about 60 yards out and able to just completely chip the goalkeeper in his own half. But, in this instant, it was the same case, and I think this was even more impressive considering the fact that, he's not really kind of like in his prime anymore, and the fact that he can still do what he done during his prime is just quite amazing. And for some reason, whenever Rooney play against Orlando, like, he got to have something against Orlando, because remember how last year when DC of course got the dramatic 3-2 win against Orlando City, and obviously we remember the goal that, Lucho Acosta of course scored that goal, but everybody's gonna remember how Rooney basically tracked back and made a spectacular challenge and then just put an absolute dime off a ball from about 50 yards out to give to Lucho Acosta, who basically heads it in. Well, it happened again where he decided to do another spectacular play, and this time instead of him putting an absolute dime for a player to head the ball in, this time he decided to do it on his own and give DC a 1-0 lead. Now, in the second half, DC of course throughout this game they had chances of getting that second goal, and that they thought that they got that second goal in the 72nd minute when Ulises Segura buries that one to give DC a 2-0 lead, but they go to VAR in that instant, and it turns out that Segura was actually in an offside position, and it was very, very close in terms of the offside decision. Like, I think Janssen might have just kind of pulled up a little bit to make sure that Segura was in an offside position, but if it was an offside, then it wasn't by much. Like, when you look on VAR, it was really, really close, and I can definitely see that there are some referees and some VAR officials said that is not going to be offside because it is inconclusive, but it turns out that it was conclusive enough to call that an offside, and that DC of course still only lead 1-0 at that point. But the good news is they're able to hang on to a 1-0 lead, as Orlando City, once again, they had a lot of shots in this game. They had 19 shots in this game compared to 15 that DC had. 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that DC had. 12 shots off target compared to 10 that DC had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that DC had. 54% possession compared to 46% possession that DC had. And, Orlando City, how many times this season we have seen them do this a lot. And we've seen them do this the last time when they were facing against DC at home, where they had so many chances in games, and yet somehow in some way they're unable to put those ball into the back of the net, and that their finishing kind of let them down. This has been the story with Orlando City, and you just wonder, with this team, if this team could actually have a proven goal scored and a player that will make sure he's able to put away most of his chances, this team would not be near where they are right now, below the red line, and that this team should clearly be one of the top team in the Eastern Conference. But that of course isn't the case, and DC of course, it's a good victory for them. However, I think there is still a little bit concerned the fact that, once again, this is another game where they're unable to score more than 1 goal. And yes, they did miss Ariola in this game because he's with the U.S. men's national team. But having said that, even with Ariola in that starting 11, that attack should still be good enough. That attack with Lucho Acosta and Wayne Rooney and Ulises Segura should still be good enough in terms of scoring a couple of goals. But still, DC, it doesn't seem like that is the case, and that, DC cannot just keep doing this where they just win game 1-0, and that would be a way to do it. I mean, just as Atlanta, what happened earlier in the season when they decided to just keep winning game 1-0, and eventually things are going to kind of caught up to them. Well, in some way, it's kind of already caught up to them too, because in these last couple of games where they only score 1 goal, they haven't really got any result out of it. And the only game that they actually scored more than 1 goal, which was that free draw against Chicago, they didn't get a win in that game. So that's a little bit unfortunate in that situation. But moving on into the next game, is Montreal. So they got a win against Portland, and I put Portland Timbers 2 because it was really Montreal Impact versus Portland Timbers 2 in this game. Now, when I say that Giovanni Savarese was going to rotate in this game, I didn't mean that he's going to completely switch his team where they're not going to have Valeri or Brian Fernandez or Sebastian Blanco in this game and just put a bunch of T2 player in the starting 11. Like, that was not what I meant when I said that they need to rotate, because that this is the 3rd game in 7 days for them, and that this, of course, is a game where they have to travel all the way across the other side of the country to play on a short rest and that they have to rotate. And I didn't think that Savarese was just going to completely gut his team and just put a T2 squad in this game. And unfortunately, that of course backfired because the Impact, of course, getting a 2-1 win, and mostly they were pretty dominating in this game. And Okwanko, man, he had a absolute amazing game and probably had the game of his life in this one. And if you want to talk about the goal of the week, I think this week is probably the toughest in terms of deciding which exactly is the goal of the week, because Okwanko, the first goal was pretty amazing where he was able to go on the right side and basically tucks it home to the top left of the post to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. But the second goal that he scored, I mean, that is just unreal. The fact that he was basically dribbling from his back and that he was able to just kind of hits it off the back foot, and not only hits it off the back foot and able to put on the top right corner, but the fact that he was able to generate that much power off of his back foot, that is just incredible. I mean, that is just something that I don't see a lot of players can do, and it's probably one of those goals where he might only score 1 out of 100 goals, and in that situation, that 1 out of 100 chance that he scored that goal, that one time is where he, of course, scored. And that was a crucial goal, too, for Montreal, because the Timbers, or Timber 2, actually got the equalizer thanks to Kachowny from Cascante and Larea. And I believe that's also the first ever MLS goal from Kachowny in this game, because again, a lot of T2 player play in this game, and a lot of these T2 player have never really saw first team action with the Portland Timbers, so I'm assuming that's also his first goal. But like I said, that Okwanko goal, if it wasn't for the Wayne Rooney 65-yard chip, I think that would definitely be the goal of the week. Like any other week, without what we saw from what Wayne Rooney did in that game against Orlando City, that is surely the goal of the week, because it is just quite impossible to hit it off the back foot and to generate that much power and still able to put it on the top right, and that he is facing his back toward goal. It was just amazing to see, and if you guys haven't checked it out, you gotta make sure to check out that goal. But yeah, that of course is the final score of this game, as Montreal of course walk out with 3 points and remain in second in the Eastern Conference. They have 13 shots compared to 7 that the Timbers had, 4 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Timbers had, 7 shots off target compared to 2 that the Timbers had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Timbers had, and Montreal actually had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that the Timbers had. It's not very often that you say the Montreal Impact will actually have that much possession in a single game, but that is exactly what happened in this one. And it's a good victory for Montreal, even though technically, I know Timbers fan will say, well, we didn't even put our starting 11. We basically put a Timbers 2 team. And I'm pretty sure this loss for Timbers fan, they won't really be very concerned, because this is basically their second team. And that, as much as I have heard that T2 is doing very well in USL this season, even a team that do well in USL, sometime when you decide to bring those guys into MLS, it's a whole different animal. I mean, there's a saying about how MLS and USL level is completely different, and this is a game that proves why that is the case. But moving on into the next match, and a match that I'm definitely going to spend quite a bit of time explaining this one, because this was a crazy game. And this is probably one of the craziest game I have seen this season, and probably the craziest ending that I have seen so far, and an ending that I don't think I have ever saw before, and it was bizarre, and also it was very controversial. But, TFC, of course, they were able to pull off the upset against Atlanta, winning 3-2 in this game, and finally snap out of that 8-game winless run that they had and get their first victory since May. And the firework all started in the first minute, and that literally 23 seconds into this game, Endo scores his first ever goal in MLS and scored the fastest ever goal that Toronto FC had scored 23 seconds into the game to give TFC a 1-0 lead. Now, that lead, unfortunately, would be kind of a little bit short-lived because 16 minutes later, Elena, of course, wins a penalty, and Pity Martinez, of course, puts away the penalties to tie the game at 1-1. If you wonder why Pity Martinez was taking penalties in this game, well, that's because Joseph Martinez wasn't available in this game. And if Joseph Martinez was available in this game, he would be taking the penalty. And it turns out with Pity Martinez taking penalty, that would really kind of haunt Atlanta back at the end of this game. But 5 minutes later, Atlanta would take the lead thanks to Julian Guesso to give them a 2-1 lead at that point, but that lead would be short-lived because 5 minutes later, Pozuelo scores from Scheffelberg and Frazier. Scheffelberg actually had a very decent game, and a lot of these TFC players that made their first ever appearance in MLS, like Scheffelberg, had a very decent debut in this one. But at that point, it was tied up at 2 apiece. And Pozuelo, by the way, was actually played as a false number 9 in this game, which was kind of interesting because I don't think Pozuelo has ever played as a false number 9 in any of the team, or even when he was at Genk. I might be mistaken. If you're a Genk fan that is watching this and you've seen Pozuelo play before, and you saw him play as a false 9, then let me know in the comments below that I made a mistake saying the fact that this is the first time ever that I've seen that, well, first time ever that Pozuelo actually played in a false 9 position. And it turns out to be very successful too, because he actually scored 2 goals in this game, and then of course he scored the crucial penalty in this game. And speaking of which, that's where we're going to get to next, and this is where I'm going to spend most time talking about this game, which is right near stoppage time, and that there was a ending that I definitely have never seen before. It was bizarre and it was controversial. And the controversy, of course, came with this penalty because Walt Pozuelo, of course, put this penalty away to give TFC the crucial 3-2 lead. It looked like when that penalty was called, it looked like it was a dive from Larrea. So as Larrea was going into the box, it looked like he basically took a dive in the box, and that the referee still calls that a penalty. And the fact that I'm very surprised, the fact that the ref didn't look at VAR and didn't even hesitate to call that penalty was something that I'm actually a little bit shocked. And I'm pretty sure Atlanta player were absolutely fuming, and Atlanta United fan were just thinking, how in the world is that a penalty when it was clear as daylight that Larrea basically dived in that situation. So that, of course, is unfortunate, and that Pozuelo was able to give TFC a 3-2 lead in that point. And at that point, you know, by the way, there was only 2 minutes of stoppage time in this game, so you would think with Pozuelo scoring that penalty, yeah, it's over. TFC is going to walk out with a 3-2 win and finally end their 8-game winless run, right? Not so fast, because literally about a minute later, Atlanta actually won a free kick, and as this free kick was delivered into the box, and as the ball was kind of like in the box, it looked like there was a handball it looked like there was a handball that was committed by one of the TFC players. And originally, what is bizarre about this is that the referee actually blew the final whistle in this game, and that, you know, already the players were like, the Atlanta player was still screaming at the referee, said that it should have been a penalty, but the TFC player were kind of ready to walk off the field, and you already saw that Frank de Boer and Greg Venny have already shake hand, and everybody were already start leaving the stadium because they thought the game was over. Like, you know, and even the victory song was already playing for TFC, and that, yeah, I mean, this game is done and dusted. There's really nothing else can happen in this game, right? That is exactly not the case, because the referee actually decided to look at VAR, and this is a rule that I think MLS might have to take a look at, and maybe they're going to have to change this in the future, where when a referee blows for full time, they cannot go back to look at VAR. And that I think right now, as of now, the rule says that if the referee blows for the full-time whistle, but he thinks that there was some play that needs to be reviewed after the final whistle is blown, then of course he can still do that. And that's why you saw in this game after the final whistle was blown, where pretty much everybody except for Orlando United players thought that the game was over. The referee, of course, looked at it, and even the TSN broadcast and the commentator in this game even said that the game might, despite the fact the full-time whistle is blown, they might actually look at VAR in that instant, which they of course look at it, and it was a penalty, and that, you know, Atlanta, who thought that they were pretty much dead and buried after the full-time whistle has blown, has a chance to tie the game up. And I think it's only justice, the fact that they have a chance to tie the game up after what happened a couple of minutes ago when, you know, that penalty that Pozuelo scored should have never been a penalty. So here's Pity Martinez, who's already scored a penalty in this game and have a chance to give Atlanta an equalizer, and probably the first time ever we've seen a goal score after originally the final whistle was blown, but instead he missed it, and he absolutely skied that one. And yeah, and I'm pretty sure after this game a lot of people was questioning, how is Pity Martinez even an MLS All-Star, and how in the world did Atlanta decided to pay $17 million for this guy that can't even put away a penalty in a crucial spot? I mean, yeah, that was really heartbreaking for Atlanta. And I know a lot of Atlanta fans will still be mad about the penalty that was given to TFC, but the fact that you still had a chance late in the game to get the equalizer and you blew it, yeah, there's really not much I can't really show you any sympathy if you had a chance late in the game to kind of get some justice to tie the game up and you basically blown that opportunity. But in terms of the shots in this game, TFC had 15 shots compared to 18 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 5 shots on goal, 7 shots off target compared to 10 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Atlanta has. And overall, what a crazy game this was. What a bizarre and controversial kind of ending we had in this game. And that, I think at the end of the day, like, this will be kind of an ending that I will probably not be able to see again maybe in the future, because again, like I said, I think MLS might look at the fact that, well, you know, after the final whistle is blown, should we change the rule where the referee does not allow to use VAR to check what happened? Because you blown the final whistle, and that when you blown the final whistle, it means the game is over, and that, you know, in this situation that was not the case. You know, MLS is definitely going to try to take a look at that. And I know Atlanta fans will be pissed off about what happened with the penalty, but again, like I said before, they had the chance late in the game to redeem themselves, and they didn't take advantage of it. Speaking of teams that didn't take advantage, FC Dallas. Well, they did not take advantage of a 2-0 lead in this game, and instead, they blew it in this one. So, they of course drew 2-2 in this game against Vancouver, and of course, Vancouver with an improbable comeback in this one. Now, in the first half, there was no score, but Dallas had chances in the first half, and they had chances that was kind of similar in the last game, where they had so many shots on goal and so many shots that Vancouver had to kind of deal with. Yet none of them, of course, gets into the back of the net. Now, fortunately, Dallas did eventually get their reward after putting so much pressure on the Vancouver backline when Jesus Ferreira scores from Barrios and Cervena. And then 4 minutes later, they double their lead when Hollinshead scores for Cervena. And I wrote, could the goalkeeper done better in that situation? Because it looked like Zach McMath, the Vancouver goalkeeper, kind of caught a little bit flat-footed in that situation. I mean, when I look at closely, the other thing that I can say that may be the reason why he got caught flat-footed is because that shot did kind of took a little bit of deflection off of Andy Rose, but still, it didn't look like it was deflected and that he just kind of caught off of his back foot, which, yeah, obviously he's going to be very disappointed about that, and I'm pretty sure Whitecaps fan will be very disappointed about that too, because there's no doubt if Maxime Crepeau was in that situation, he probably would have saved that one. So, Dallas, of course, with 2-0 lead, and, in some way this game looks kind of similar to what happened in the last game, where it seemed like Dallas was gonna kind of run away with this one and get a comfortable victory, right? Nope. Instead, Vancouver started to fight back, and their comeback trail started in the 81st minute when Jordi Reyna scores from Venuto and Ares, and then literally 2 minutes before the final whistle and deep into stoppage time, Venuto scores an absolute banging of a goal from about 25 yards out from Andy Rose to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And again, I wrote it was a great goal, and I probably also wrote that could be a goal of the week candidate. I mean, like I said, this week in terms of goal of the week candidate, I don't know who exactly is going to win it. I mean, I think most likely it's going to be the Rootney goal, but you also got to look at the Okwanko goal and the Venuta goal. All 3 of those goals are definitely worthy of player of the week, and it's just kind of unfortunate the fact that since we had 3 amazing goals this week that is scored, and that in any other week, if one of those 3 goals was scored, they would have been goal of the week. But in this week, it looked like there's only going to be one of those 3 great goals that's going to be goal of the week. And like I said, I think it's going to be the Wayne Rooney one, where he basically chipped the goalkeeper from about 70 yards out. But nevertheless, take nothing away from Venuto's goal. That was absolutely a beauty to watch. And also, in this goal, I also understand that FC Dallas fans were absolutely mad at the fact that the referee didn't blow his whistle when Bocci actually went down on the pitch there, and that, Vancouver, of course, did not decided to play it out, and, Dallas fans were not happy the fact that Vancouver didn't play it out and so showed some good sportsmanship. Well, in some way, that is supposed to be the thing that Vancouver should have done, but the thing is, they didn't have to do it, and that the rule says that, you could play the ball out if you see a player that is currently injured, but if you're in a situation where Vancouver is, where they're kind of on the attack and that they're down 1 goal heading into the last couple of minutes of this game, they didn't have to play it out. They need to try to keep going forward to see if they can get that equalizer, and that is exactly what happened in this game. So I understand that Dallas fan is mad because the referee allowed Vancouver temporarily had a man advantage out of this, but at the same time, that is how the rule works, and that's how Vancouver, of course, take advantage of that and able to get a 2-2 draw in this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, Dallas had 26 shots compared to 12 that Vancouver has, 9 shots on goal compared to 5 that Vancouver has, 7 shots off target compared to 2 that Vancouver has, 10 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Vancouver has, and both teams had 50% possession. And, for Dallas, obviously, this is a big missed opportunity, and that this is going to be a game that they will feel like they dropped 2 points in this game more than a point that is gained. And for Vancouver, it wasn't a pretty game, but they salvaged a draw on the road, and especially they are able to fight back from going from 2-0 down to draw 2-2. I think the Whitecaps will be very happy with this result. And last but not least is my Quakes team. So the Quakes, they won 2-0 against Houston, and it wasn't vintage Quakes performance, but we got the job done at the end of the day, and that now the Quakes have officially gone above the red line for the 2nd time this season, and now have gone up to the highest position that they have been all season, in 6th position in the Western Conference. Now in the first half, Valco scores from Erickson and Espinoza, and I wrote that was the only shots on goal the Quakes had in the first half, and that is actually the truth. That was really the only shots on goal that the Quakes had, and really the only chance that the Quakes had actually had in that first half, because the first half, let's just say it was definitely not a good first half for the Quakes, and that if you were a neutral watching the first half, yeah, you might be kind of fall a little bit asleep, because both teams really struggle in terms of maintaining possession. Houston early on, they did try to play a little bit, but eventually the Quakes kind of took over. But again, the Quakes, they couldn't get anything going upfield. The passing was pretty shocking from us. We just couldn't hold on to the ball for very long, and that there was a couple of times we just give the ball away very cheaply in the middle of the park. But the good news is we led 1-0 at halftime. Now, in the second half, this is when the Quakes are starting to kind of show the Quakes that I've been seeing throughout the season, which is a very entertaining team to watch. I mean, there's been a lot of... The media has clearly been hyping the fact that the Quakes have been playing some of the most beautiful soccer that you will see in this league, and I have to agree. I mean, some of the soccer that I've seen from the Quakes, it's something that I have not seen the Quakes done for a very long time, and that what Almeida has done and the system that Almeida has put into this team has just not only been effective, but has been putting some of the most entertaining soccer that I've ever watched this team has done. Now, they of course created a lot of dangerous chances because of those beautiful soccer that they play, but the problem is they couldn't put those chances away. And really, I think for the majority of that second half, I started to kind of have flashback of the LAFC game, where that was a game where we had a lot of chances, and then as soon as we of course made a mistake and where we gave up that goal, that's when we kind of capitulate a little bit. But credit to the Quakes, they were eventually able to find the second goal, and it would be Vaco, the guy that I was just so frustrated in the last game for not able to put away his chances, was able to put away his chances in this game. And that what's also very frustrating about Vaco in this game is, although he won the man of the match in this game, there was a couple of times that I really questioned his decision making, and that why in the world does he decide not to pass off of his teammate, or just like there's a couple of times where he just trying to take on 4 or 5 defender, where it could have been much easier for him to just pass it off to a teammate in a good position rather than try to go for a spectacular effort where he dribbled 4 or 5 defender. I mean, that is just something that is so frustrating about Vaco, and it's also makes me kind of question whether or not are we actually going to keep him or not. I mean, on one hand, he's been showing that he can score goals with this team. I mean, he scored 5 goals now in the last 3 games. But on the other hand, he has shown the sides where he has been very kind of... He doesn't make the best decision in the world when he has the ball, and that at times he does kind of look a little bit selfish, and that there's also times where he just cannot put the ball into the back of the net. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Quakes would do and whether or not if Vaco is going to be in our plans in the future. But at the end of the day, the Quakes still get a 2-0 win. And in terms of the shots in this game, the Quakes had 20 shots compared to 6 that Houston had. So they had 15 shots in the second half. 6 shots on goal compared to 1 that Houston had. 5 shots on goal in the second half that the Quakes had. 9 shots off target compared to 4 that Houston had. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Houston had. And San Jose had 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Houston had. And I think this result shouldn't surprise a lot of people, considering the fact that the Quakes, for the last couple of months and ever since that 5-0 loss against LAFC, has literally looked like one, if not the best team in the league right now. And that Houston, a team that pretty much didn't have their starting 11, and that, the front three, which, by the way, Manotas and Kyoto actually was sub on in this game, and I was actually very surprised to see both of them sub on in this game, because Manotas, I heard that he was going to be scratched in this game, but turns out he was on the bench. And that Kyoto, he literally just got back from play for the Honduran national team just one day after this game took place. I was kind of surprised that on a 1-day rest, he would just come on the pitch and basically hopefully generate anything that Houston can do on the attack. I mean, the Dynamo throughout this night, they just couldn't do anything going for on the attack, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just didn't have Elise in this game, and that they clearly miss Elise in this one. Like, if Albert Elise was in this game, I have a feeling this would have definitely been much closer than what the scoreline could suggest, and how comfortable the Quakes were able to win this game. But hey, at the end of the day, you know, for the Quakes, they'll take any breaks that they can have. And like I said, they're above the red line for the second time this season and now move all the way up into 6th place in the Western Conference. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. And yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time. And I'm, of course, going to drop the preview video for the weekend games right now.